Hello, this is Shayna. I am doing a reading with the I Ching using a custom deck that I created myself. This deck has both notes and artwork for all 64 hexagrams. Maybe sometime I'll make a video about the color system that I developed for the elements. There was a lot of about 10 years worth of study that went into the making of these particular cards. And at this point, I've been studying for uh, going on 12 years. So the way I do these readings is I shuffle and then I just sort of lay the cards out blind and select what I'm drawn to magnetically. Okay, we have hexagram 58, bliss. The satisfaction of the work overshadows the toil. Engage in a generative process of wrestling and mingling with ideas outside yourself, the ideas of others, difficult ideas. When done with calm assurance within ourselves, with openness and humility, there is encouragement, energy, enthusiasm, and joy generated from this kind of interaction. So, this is what's called big water. No, not big water, double water. We have water beneath water, two bodies of water flowing into one another, and water is associated with the emotional aspect of the self. It's associated with joy and pleasure, with flow, and when we have two waters, we get all of those things magnified. And one of my favorite lines in the whole I Ching is this idea of wrestling with difficulty, blissfully wrestling with difficulties, that there is just that great satisfaction from really working through something that's hard, especially when it's ideas, for me, anyways. But this is what we have for our first card. Let's see what we got for our second. So bring to mind while I'm shuffling whatever it is the question is you have in your heart, the thing that you're going through right now that you could use a little bit of outside input on, and think about how that situation interacts with the idea of water, with that idea of um, the the blissful struggle, the intermingling of ideas, and how does that pertain to the element of water, even just what you associate with the element of water, how to bring that into your situation as a kind of wisdom or guide. Okay, one more card. This one. 46, rising. This one has the element of the world over air. A gradual and natural growth upward. It is a good time to start small and advance carefully with virtue. Even the mightiest and most majestic tree began as a tiny seed. Turn toward the light and turn toward the light and clarity provided by the sun. And just like a plant, you will grow a little each day. So here we have, with these two together, the element of water transforming into air on the bottom. And the bottom three lines are often considered sort of they can be the internal lines or they can be the human lines, where the top three are the heavenly lines. Um, there's this idea that, the bottom part of the hexagram represents something different or a different realm from the top part, the spiritual and the physical. And so in this bottom part, we have the water transforming into air. And when you think about how air and water balance each other, air is the intellectual realm and water is the emotional realm. And so there's this sort of thinking and feeling aspect there, um, thinking about how you're feeling or having feelings in response to how you're thinking, but you can shape your emotions through your thoughts. Or you can shape your thoughts through your emotions, in whichever way that needs to go for the appropriate amount of balance to be achieved in the situation. Um, the top part, we have water transforming into the earth, or the world. And the world is Gaia, Mother Earth, and water is most of her. It is a very, it's almost, I would consider the world to be the celestial aspects of water, the higher aspects of water, the life-giving source, right? So when you bring water into that spiritual realm beyond just the overwhelm of the emotional um, inner world that we can get kind of overcome by, right? There is this bounding quality to the earth that kind of contains that water and um, puts that water to use in the most profound ways we think of water. So that's the elemental interactions going on. The images, this was two bodies flowing of water flowing into each other. And here we have this air element represented by the tree roots or the tree. Because in the I Ching, sometimes the air element is called wood or is associated with the idea of wood. It's sometimes called wind and can be associated with the way the trees blow in the wind or um, the the way the trees give us the air that we breathe. And so in this case with the world and the air, I have the roots um, growing down into the world. Um, let's see, giving it that firm sort of foundation. So what changing lines do we have in this set? The first line is changing. The third line is changing. The fourth and the fifth line are changing. So we have four changing lines. That puts us in a very high flux situation. If 4 out of 6 are changing, then most of the lines are changing. And so that will put us firmly more seated in this one than we are in this one. We're on the second half of the arc of the change as we cross over that 3-line change mark. And so I'm actually going to look at the ones that aren't changing and read those in this card. So the ones that aren't changing are 2 and 6. 2 and 6 in hexagram 46. Other titles for this, I called it rising, but it's also called pushing upward. Um, it's a symbol of advancement or ascension, promotion, sprouting from the earth, organic growth. So the advice to the superior person in this one is The Chunsu uses amassing the small to use the great height. The Junzi diligently cultivates his virtues little by little to become tall and large like trees growing. You can see where I got my image from this small accumulation in order to grow the mighty tree. So that's an image that is your highest stance is to think about accumulating the small in order to grow tall and strong. That sort of quiet base of the roots spreading out. That's the superior advice. And then I said line 2 and 6 were our lines. So we have um, if there is sincerity, it is beneficial to perform a ceremony. With sincerity, he will have the benefit of making offerings in the summer. No error. We're going into summer, so that seems like a something to pay attention to. If one is sincere, it furthers one to bring even a small offering. So the idea of that little by little in order to feed, sustain the ascension of the tree, the trunk growing tall, um, the small offering there. And this would be, since we are fully in the second half of our change, I would say that these lines are probably future lines. There's not a clear present here, um, or the present is quickly passing because of how high flux this situation is with the four changing lines that I don't feel confident claiming any one thing as the present. That you could take the read of this idea of what does it mean to go from these two bodies of water flowing into each other to this tree growing up from the earth. And I do think it's very relevant to think of that life-giving quality of water that I talked about with the elemental changes, that the intermingling of emotion and intellect and those sort of melon heart concepts that really feel like truth. When we separate the emotion from the intellect, it doesn't always have the whole truth in it. But we bring them together, it's there. And when you have two people bonding potentially over that sort of kind of truth, that it is a very sustaining foundation for a relationship that has the potential to grow, to grow upwards. And that yeah, each connection is potentially like a small offering. I don't know. I'm sort of pulling through some things here. Let's look a little bit more at this one to see if it gives me more insight. So, there's a chance that there's been a little bit of a I don't know if it would be like a forced path, or a default path that has been followed, and it's not quite in alignment with the Tao. There's some amount of minor course correction that's necessary. Maybe you have felt a bit out of touch with your instincts and your your true feelings on something. And through that lack of being in touch, you have managed to just ever so slightly veer off perhaps the right path, or the path that is most aligned to your true self, or your most that has the most integrity um with you, your authentic self. And so that's something to think about, like how you can just course correct that ever so slightly. Let's see what else we have here. It may require you to make some decisions that are just not what you would normally do. You may be I wouldn't consider these things to be things that don't align with that true self, right? But there may be some things that you haven't done, or that are outside of your general rhythm or pattern, um, that are needed to get you into that course correction. Um, you may need to move a little faster than you're comfortable with moving. Um, I am sensing both this need for connection, possibly through helping people, um, or helping others along the way to see their true selves, that you may have a bit of a connection with that there's some sort of two bodies of water mingling, that you're helping each other see each other. You're helping each other become what they're meant to be, what you are meant to be. But that you still need more personal time. That's still an aspect of your personal wellness and growth. Your spiritual connections sometimes are found there. And so maybe don't become overbalanced or out of balance in your dependence on someone else to help you find those spiritual insights, that they are also within you. There is something this summer that you will set aside, that you will sacrifice or make that offering, that you will give up potentially. Um, that is line 2. That is, I'm just revisiting a different text on line 2. There is this connection that I'm speaking of, that you have established, that is um, a a lovely source, life-giving source, right? And that's going to be a long-term source of energy and inspiration. You may sometimes feel a sense of affliction or oppression from this same connection. Um, but you should continue to invest and provide for it, because this is a cooperative process that is part of the change you're going through right now. That is your intended change. It is an authentic transformation that you're going through. Um, and so that is all I think I could possibly pull out of line 2, but let me just look one more time. Yeah, there's just it's going to be that sacrifice is going to be related to your ego. There's something in your ego that you will need to give up for this to continue, this change to complete. itself. Let's look at line 6. So line 6, a little bit further down the road, a further progression in this same sort of transformation. Rising in the dark, benefit lies in unceasing rectitude. Rising into the unknown, it is beneficial to be unceasingly correct. It's your interesting. Ascending, dim, ascending, harvesting. Tending towards not pausing's trial. It's so strange. Some of these wordings. A night ascent, advantage lies in unremitting persistence. Yeah, so it feels dark where you're going, this place that you're growing into. It's going to be really important to keep your wits, to really hone your senses that can see in the dark. Your eyes don't see so well in the dark, maybe, but there are other kinds of senses, not just the five even, that can help you move through um, and continue growing in what feels like a complete darkness. Um, it's important to not sort of panic and begin um, reacting or responding to that fear of ascending into darkness in ways that cause loss. There's an amount of caution necessary for this type of growing. Let's see what else we have here. Ascending in a waning moon. There will be changes, and it's advantageous not to pause. So keep pushing forward, and you are connected to this deep source of energy. But sometimes your link or connection with that, especially in this moment as you go forward into the darkness, it's going to feel a little unclear. You will need to rely on and continue to make connections with others, not just this one connection. This is not the only place to lean. So reach out, can keep that joyful, blissfully struggling with the difficulty, right? This is going to be part of your work is like continuing to find the joy in the struggle that feels hard, to kind of relieve that tension um, through connections with those who give you the energy you need to keep moving forward, because persistence is important. There may be a point where you feel you really have to let yourself be led by something in order to get through this, not just close your eyes and rely on yourself, but that you're going to need all these connections to lead you to some extent through this in order to complete that change. Yeah, that's what I have today. I hope that the guides have brought this to you and that it's just what you needed to hear.